Marhaba. Good morning, Los Angeles. Good evening, Farah, wherever you are. I know it's evening. And Saleh, good evening in
Good
Palestine.
evening. Good evening.
When we finish, just open the window, please, and take the breath air from the Mediterranean and send it to me, please, because I miss it so much. Anyway, it is such an honor to have the both of you here tonight. And Saleh Bakri, the lead in the movie The Present, comes from a family of performers from his dad, Muhammad Bakri, his two brothers. The family is like not only an icon, but a legend in Palestine and in the Arab world, and of course, in the world. And Farah, we are so happy to have you. You have given us one of the most beautiful present with your incredible movie. And what makes it such an incredible movie, it's the simplicity, the way you did it with heart, and you can feel so much love and in a way anger when you made that movie. And I felt that love and I felt that anger, and I saw the movie at least 5 times. And I love it, and I wish everyone should. This is one of those movies that everybody should see. So thank you so much, and I truly hope we will meet soon again. We have so many friends in common. I hope to see you soon, and maybe next year. I mean, no, actually this year, November 2021, we can screen it at the festival, and you can come and we can meet in person. And I wish you all the luck, both of you, because you really deserve it. You are so full of talent that this talent should implode so everybody can see this. So thank you again for your beautiful gift. And I will leave it to Chris, who is the perfect person to lead this moderation today. Hey, it's not because you're my friend I said that, but I do believe that. Okay, so thank you, and we will see you soon, and good luck at the Oscars.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, George. Thank you very much.
Alan, Alan.
All right. I'm going to jump in here and I echo George's sentiments precisely, so precisely that I think he was reading over my shoulder and stealing my words last night or something, because I felt exactly the same. He mentioned the purpose of the film being to entertain and educate. And I remember stating to the first director I worked with in a play, said, "Well, this it's not as entertaining. What entertain?" And when he said, "Do you think that's the purpose of art?" Boy, did he trample on my head. He looked at me like I just came out of a cave. And it's wonderful that this film is so entertaining, so gripping, so powerful, so emotional. And yet it takes you to a level where the best of art changes us as human beings, I think. Makes us more heart-centered, more wise, more accepting, more tolerant of ourselves and others. And your film did such a wonderful job of that. Your writing, your acting, your directing. I got to really walk in the shoes of a Palestinian or of a person that's trapped in a hopeless, painful, humiliating situation that goes on and on. To see you shamed in front of your family. How can a man take care of his family in that situation? And how does a man live with that? And the control you have to put on yourself, because if you go too far, if you express it, you're either going to jail or you're going to get shot. I mean, it was a beautiful, beautiful movie. So we'll start on the movie and just see where we go here. Let me start with, and Sally, I'm so glad you could join us. I didn't know for sure you were going to come, but this is a great opportunity.
Thank you. I'm glad to.
Great.
Thank you.
Farah, why did you want to make this movie? What created this impulse in you? What situation took you to wanting to take this big step?
Look, I've been to Palestine many, many times. I don't live in Palestine, I'm Palestinian. And on all my trips, I've experienced these checkpoints myself. But I've also watched Palestinians go through the indignities, the exhaustion, the time wasted, the frustrations, the humiliations. Even just speaking about it now already, an elderly couple I've witnessed being humiliated comes to mind immediately. And I've had these conversations with Palestinians who have to go through this every single day. And the ultimate inspiration is from someone I've gotten to know over the years. His name is Abid. He lives in Khalil, in Hebron. And he lives on a road where there is a number of checkpoints surrounding his area. So not just him, all the Palestinians in that area. There are checkpoints, and one that we were standing on the other side of once, chatting, and it's very similar to the one in the film. It has a turnstile, it has a metal detector. And I remember looking at it and saying to him, okay, Abid, if you need a new couch in your home, what do you do? And he looked at me like I was so naive. And he said, you know, Farah, if it doesn't fit, it doesn't go. And I just thought that was absolutely wild, completely absurd. He said, okay, technically you're supposed to ask for permission, but you know, these checkpoints are not here to accommodate us. They are here to frustrate us and humiliate us and so on. And anyway, the conversation went into a whole crazy direction. And that's where the sort of seed of inspiration for this particular story came about, was that conversation with him. And it was a story I needed to tell. You know, they say some films you can make and others you have to make. This was one I felt I had to make. Yeah.
Wow. And Saleh, why would you consent to being in this after what your father had gone through? He made a film, a documentary, I think about 20 years ago, and he's been blacklisted and harassed and in legal battles ever since. Why would you take that step to put yourself in that arena?
Because it's my right to live normally. I live only one time, and it's my right to live normally. And when I say to live normally, means to live with my surrounding, with my people normally. The checkpoints are not only frustrating us and humiliating us. Checkpoints are there also to separate us, to separate Palestinians from Palestinians. I live here in Haifa, which is Israel today, the historical Palestine. And I never been to Gaza because there is a wall, and Gaza is a kind of a big prison. If I do a play here in Haifa, I cannot play it in the West Bank or in Gaza. The ones in the West Bank cannot come and see my play here. So what I'm doing is trying to scream it out and to say it loudly. Maybe one day people will listen, and maybe those people who listen are inspired also by my work, and maybe they can change. So this is I believe that art is the best way to resist. It is the best, it's a non-violent resistance that I believe in, and I believe in with all my soul and with all my body, and that is an essence that I learned from my father, and because I grew up with him fighting for every word in the scripts, fighting for, I remember that he changed in his beginnings of as an actor. It was in '82, I was 5 years old. I remember him changing the end of the film because he didn't agree with the script. So he taught me this kind of revolt. This fire, I got it from him. He didn't taught me directly, but I just lived with him, and that's what I perceived, and that's who I am. And I believe that his story is my story, and I continue his story. And whoever, nobody can censorship this soul. Nobody can censorship this story. Nobody, even if whatever they try, whatever they do, they cannot censorship us. They cannot just shut our mouth up. They cannot do that. And that's why I'm here. My brothers are here. My friends are there. And everyone is doing, Farah is there. Everyone is doing what he believes. And this fire in the Palestinian people and the oppressed people in general never dies. Never.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you. Beautifully said.
Thank you.
And having done this film, has it changed how people treat you in Israel, or how they treat you when you travel to Palestine, the territories?
Listen, I don't know. I feel in Israel, they wrote about the film. They already wrote about the film in their newspapers, and they accused us for being a black and white. And you know, they tried to just to say superficial things about the film, just to let people not just to. Whatever. I don't think. I don't mind what they do. Actually, I don't think of them restricting my. I don't think of what they would do to me. I do what I believe. I live here. Sometimes I'm also was on not only checkpoints. Once they make me took all of my clothes in a train station. In the train station, just because I am Palestinian. Just because I'm Palestinian, they took me to a room and they forced me to take off all my clothes. Once they put a gun on me because I spoke in Arabic to somebody of the security, and she didn't understand what I said. She thought I'm swearing at her, and I didn't swear. I was just laughing about the situation in Arabic, and she wanted to shoot me. She put a gun on me. And then the Israelis who were behind me, they recognized me from the cinema, from my work, and they defended me. Wow. So one wanted to shoot me and the other ones wanted to help me.
Right.
So this is the situation I live here now. Maybe one day I would do a film and they would try to censorship me, my film, or would try to do with me the same of what they did to my father, and they are still doing. But I don't care. I mean, they can do that. They are losers. They are losers. The fact they are persecuting an artist, they already lost the case. They are already losers.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. My understanding is that there's a growing percentage of of people in Israel that are supporting the Palestinian state and freedom of movement and the same rights for everybody. Is that true?
Yes, it is true. They are a minority still. They don't have a real effect still. Unfortunately, they are still a minority. But they exist, and we respect that, and we believe in coexistence. And I believe in coexistence. I believe that the Israelis who are against occupation, against all these atrocities that Israel is doing, of course they are like my comrades, and I believe in that. But they are very few. They are not a lot of people. They are few. Like, for example, there are the directors. For the first time, the directors Israeli committee stand up supporting my father for the first time after 19 years. Just now, for the first time, they stand up supporting my father. So there is a change, but it is very, very little and very not effective, and it's going from worse to worse, the situation here, the political situation with the right wing and thing. Like today, it's the right wing in the government. It's the right wing like controlling the whole government. So
right,
it's
yeah, Chris, a lot of people there was a bigger community of if you call it left-wing Israelis, and by that I mean sort of Jewish Israelis. Many have left. But I'll give you an example. Today, for example, Mahsum Watch, which is a human rights group, an Israeli human rights group, retweeted our film. Earlier today, a Jewish writer who's written about the Holocaust retweeted the film. I had an email from Jeff Halper, who's the Institute Against Home Demolitions, Palestinian home demolitions. These are all Israelis. So it does exist, but exactly what Saleh said, it's minimal, and you're up against a much bigger right-wing machine.
right.
So yeah,
it's minimal, but I can see or feel that it's growing. And I'll talk about that aspect. Well, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say it's growing, but not within Israel so much, Chris. It's growing outside, whether it's the US, in the UK. That's where the movements are growing a lot more with organizations like Jewish Voice for Peace and
Right.
If Not Now and things like that. Yeah.
I'm going to switch into the film and talk a little bit about that. And Saleh had mentioned that they had said it was black and white. And I thought you did such a wonderful job in writing and directing the scene at the gate when you were dealing with the Israeli guard who was sympathetic. I mean, in watching your film, like I said, I could walk in the shoes, Saleh's shoes, but I could also walk in that guard's shoes. Here I am, and what I see is unfair, unjust, but I'm not the boss, and I'm a small player, and how much stink do I make, and what's going to happen to me, and what do I do? That's confusing. I could feel that, and I could feel the power, enjoying the power of the malevolent evil guard who was having great fun controlling the situation and humiliating Saleh. I mean, I could feel all those things because of the great work you did.
I think, Chris, at the end of the day, when I write stories and what I'm doing is not to dehumanize another. So while humanizing a Palestinian, you don't have to dehumanize another. And for me, I have no doubt that many Israelis, soldiers, IDF soldiers, occupation soldiers, have a cognitive dissonance. I mean, it doesn't, you have to somehow make sense in your head in order to do what it is you're doing. And there are various soldiers who are not, I'm sure, happy with what they're doing or are having to be willfully blind about what they're doing. But I am sad to say that the reason, this particular soldier was, questioning It wasn't so much that was a story I've heard from others. It was to allow the rest of the story to play through. This is a fiction film. It is based on a very cruel reality on the ground. But the biggest elements of fiction, sadly, are the way it ended. I mean, and the way, you know, that particular soldier argued with another soldier. That does not happen often. I'm very sad to say it. But it doesn't mean to say that there aren't various soldiers who I'm sure have an issue to an extent. And then there are organizations like Breaking the Silence, for example, where you have soldiers who, you know, turn around and sort of confess or are not happy with what they've done. But, you know, it wasn't about dehumanizing anyone else. It was about the focus on the father and his daughter.
Right.
And whatever needed to take place around that took place. Yeah.
Right. In watching the father and the daughter, Saleh, I mean, I felt, you know, a palpable love, a gentleness, a bond, very strong bond with your wife, and I felt this magic with the child. What kind of work do you do as an actor to create those connections that live so strongly in you that we feel them?
In this case, not a lot, because Mariam is just gifted. She's a gifted girl, and it's a casting issue. It's Farah decision, and it was a great decision, I think, great casting decisions. And she is also a daughter of our friend Nael, who is Nael and Layla, who are working in cinema, and we know them. And I know Mariam since she was little. So it's it just happened. It just happened. The first moment we met, it's just there, a father and daughter just there. We didn't do a lot. We just loved each other. She loved to be nearby me and to feel that I'm her father. I just enjoyed every moment with her as my daughter in the film. And it was something. I was not a father yet at that time, but still, I think we are all. It's things that comes with us. We are built in a father and a mother. There is a built-in father and mother inside us. And even if we don't have a child, I believe that we still have a fatherhood or a motherhood inside us. And I have them both. I have motherhood and fatherhood inside me.
Right.
And it's built in. It's something that I believe all human beings have. Some are more sensitive about it, some are less, but it's there. It's
that
there.
Being the easy, joyful part, what would be one of the most difficult scenes for you to do in this project that you did?
After we went out with the daughter, after we went out of the checkpoint and I discovered she peed on herself, that was very difficult to me to just know that she peed and I couldn't do nothing, and she peed because of me. I blamed myself for that, and it was a difficult moment, really difficult. And the most difficult moment in the whole thing was when I was in this checkpoint in 4 in the morning. We went there like 3-4 in the morning, and I never been there at that time. I'm familiar with checkpoints. I lived in Ramallah. I worked in a drama school. I taught in Ramallah for 1 year, so I'm very familiar with these checkpoints, and I just couldn't deal with it as a normal thing, never. So when I was in Ramallah, I just didn't leave Ramallah because I knew that I had to pass these checkpoints. But this particular checkpoint in Bethlehem, where we shoot at the 4 in the morning, where thousands of workers every day passing there to get some food for their families, I was in shock. I was in shock. And it was difficult for me even to be there, just to stand there and to pass with these people, with the workers. Like 90.999 are men, dense together, like more than 500, I believe, dense, and people are, like you saw in the film, and wow, I was wondering how a man, after this journey of everyday journey like that, how a man like that would come back from where he brings the energy after this long day to hug his wife. From where? From where he brings the energy to hug his son or his daughter. That's tearing the heart. And I am Palestinian and I am familiar with that. But every time I see the film, I get so angry, so sad, so feeling the feeling of unable to do nothing, to do anything. This feeling is just tearing me up, just tearing me up. And this was very hard to do it.
Let me clarify that, so because people wouldn't know, but basically scene 2 of the film is a real checkpoint. So the scene where you see those hundreds, thousands of people climbing, all that, is a real infamous checkpoint in Bethlehem called Checkpoint 300. So that was almost like a documentary scene. And I remember Saleh that day. We did that scene during the prep period before we did shoot the following week. And I've been to these checkpoints before deliberately. And I always say, one of the reasons I wanted to make the film actually is because of that particular checkpoint, and another one in Kalandia that I've also gone through. And it is worse than sort of a battery farm. I mean, you can see it in the film. And I remember you, Saleh. I remember on that night you were extremely uncomfortable, and understandably so. I mean, you know, he was the only fiction in that scene amongst thousands who are literally struggling and going to work. This is their reality. And, you know, and there I was asking Saleh, please, you know, get into that pile of people. And it was tough. It was very intense. I mean, you know, but I'm so glad you did, Saleh, because I think that was, for me personally, one of the most rewarding scenes of the film, actually, in terms of, you know, once it was done, I have a lot more footage of it. But I think that was an extremely important scene for exactly the reasons you just described, Saleh. If we were to understand Yusef and everything else that happens on that day, we have to understand what his backstory in that sense. Who is this man? What is he struggling? You know,
why his back is so
messed up. All of it.
What was the initial shot where, Joseph, you wake up by that wall? Was that the same place in Bethlehem? Is that an actual?
Very close to the checkpoint. It's not so far from the checkpoint.
You know, so that's an interesting one. Some people don't quite get that. But again, when I've been at some of these checkpoints, I've seen people asleep on cardboard boxes, because some of these people come to these checkpoints from 2 hours drive away. And they also want to try get ahead of the crowd. So it's completely dystopian, completely messed up, really, really.
How long typically does it take to get from the entrance to through there at a normal time of when people are coming to work? 2 hours, an hour?
So you saw it at rush hour, right? In that, when it was really piled on, that can take 2-3 hours. And then, of course, if you got there super, super early, you might be at the front. But then there's the sort of unpredictability, you know. The soldiers can say, okay, we're stopping right now. Or if they have someone they're not particularly sure about letting through, they can hold up everybody. So sometimes it can turn into 4 or 5 hours, or even shuts down, you don't make it to work. And then you get penalized for not even making it to work. It's so frustrating and so unpredictable. But generally, it's a couple of hours, 2-3 hours. And once you go in, by the way, it's more of an industrial process. I've been through. You then get to a place where you're having to take off your belts and your jumpers, and you go through machines and turnstiles, and sometimes those turnstiles are broken or turned off. So it's you wouldn't wish it on your worst enemy, let alone animals in a battery farm. So yeah.
What happens to the people that scramble across the top trying to get in front of everybody? When they finally get in front and they drop down, I mean, that's not too well accepted if you cut in front of everybody, is it?
Do you know what? No, it is accepted. There's a sort of a camaraderie. There's an understanding that in this moment, we're all in this frustration. And that guy who's climbing across is that much more desperate to get to work than me, in that sense. There's a understanding that this is we're in it, we're in this horrible situation together, and no one is arguing with the other, to be honest.
Yeah. Yes, Chris, it was amazingly, with all of the scene, it was amazingly quiet.
Wow.
Amazingly quiet. People just moved forward slowly, and people were jumping on the queue from above, and it was really quiet.
Wow.
It was really...
Yeah, and to add something even more disturbing, actually, imagine that scene with no lights. And the truth is, the night before, I went there at 2 a.m. I couldn't sleep. And I got there, and actually none of the light bulbs were working. So actually what they've been doing from God knows when are exactly doing that in darkness. And, of course, I freaked out and I said, okay, we need to get some light bulbs. And we put in some lights. And what was interesting is the comments that some of the people said in the queues were, you remember that? It's like, oh, there's light. And, of course, we left the light bulbs in when we left. But, they're doing that even in darkness. There is something completely and utterly messed up about that, to be honest.
Let's talk a little bit about one of the other scenes at the gate, and the climactic scene. As an actor and a director, the level of intensity that Saleh you bring, and how do you gauge? I mean, at what point? I mean, you want to retaliate, you obviously can't. You want to scream, but as we saw in the film, was so well done. You bring it up to a point where now people got guns on you and they're cocking the guns. And how did you two decide, just by feeling, or how did you decide how far to go with your reactions to being abused?
Well, let me answer first what I think, my perspective. I'll leave Saleh to sort of answer. Part of the reasons why I wanted Saleh in this film is because he is such a phenomenal seasoned actor. And I needed someone who really at his core understands this character. And you can just see by the way Saleh speaks about this entire film and the entire Palestinian experience and his own personal experience that he embodies that in so many ways. And at the end of the day, he understood the story. I, as a director, and this is my directorial debut, was very careful about what it is I could bring to Saleh. And I wanted to make sure that it could add value. And sometimes it did, and sometimes it didn't, I'm sure. And in that sense. But I think by the time we were doing that scene, I personally did not need to involve myself that much. We've had our discussions, we had some evening chats. He got it, and totally from my perspective. And I will say that there was a moment where he went so with it that even though in some ways kind of could have called cut, I wanted him to keep going in that sense, and just left him to kind of build up whatever it is he needed to build up. That's how I saw it. He did the most incredible job from my perspective. Anyway, Saleh.
Thank you, Farah. when I was there and we arrived to this very intense scene, I saw the table. And the table that I put the things on it. And I knew that all my anger is going to be on the table. Because if I hit any soldier, I would be killed right away. So I had to get my anger in something else. In what? And I saw the table. And then I lost it. And I broke the table. I broke it really. It broke. And you can see it in the film. I lost it and I broke the table. It's a very interesting question because I never really thought about it again, but this was, the table was my savior in this, in this scene. I just got all my anger on the table and I just broke it. But I knew that I cannot just touch anybody of them. I just cannot touch. You don't do it. You don't do it.
Right. Wow. So that was the only restraint you had. Well, I shouldn't say only, like it's not, I mean, that's a huge restraint. You know, you knew where you couldn't go. I mean, yes, exactly. I can't walk up to them and,
of course, yeah,
even intimate that I might hit them. Yeah.
Of course, yeah. Yeah.
And so in breaking it, go ahead.
And there's a daughter, there's a big responsibility. There is a life there that he has to be there for her. So he cannot just let go with his anger to the end.
Yeah. Painful.
No way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Of course. Of course. It's a very painful scene. It's not only anger, it's pain. It's a deep pain that it's like you don't have a daughter. You don't have daughters. I mean, you don't have children. You're not a father. You're not mother. You don't experience that. What are you made of? Like only yesterday, they arrested 5 children who were picking up this little plant that grows up in nature in Palestine called akub. They arrested them, 5 children, like 14, 15, and you see a big soldier with all his equipment dragging a little kid, and I say, "What? You don't have a child. You don't have a child. You don't feel. What are you made for? Even if it's your fucking system. Sorry. Even if it's your fucking system." How can you do it? How can you just drag a boy who has a pee in his pants and you continue to drag him to jail? There are 250 children in jail. Wow. Less than 18, all of them.
What was his crime? Taking a plant?
Taking a plant. And they forbid us from taking these plants that we used through thousands of years. Pick these plants like za'atar, akub, and other plants that grows up naturally here. And we never destroyed these plants. These plants always grow up in nature and remain in this nature because this nature is generous. And these people here are generous. They took care of this land and they took care of these plants and they ate from this earth. And now there's the how do you call it? It's like a kind of institute in Israel. It's like defending the nature. So in the name of defending nature, they forbid us from picking up these plants. So when we go to pick up these plants, and we still pick them, even if the law is against it, we still pick these plants. I still go with my friends and pick these plants. We eat them, and it's very tasty and very healthy. And we mustn't. So in the West Bank is worse, because here you still have an Israeli citizen. So you still have rights as Israeli citizen. There, you don't have any right. You are not Israeli citizen.
So yeah, just to clarify, so these kids were basically in the West Bank, and some illegal Israeli settlers called, soldiers and said, oh, these kids are picking plants, and and of course these children are under military judicial system, so the military will come and take them away. There is no civil legal system for Palestinians in the West Bank. So that's what it's about. It's pretty messed up.
I like you're very precise, and I love that, because your English is better and you're very precise, and I like that. I learned from you.
Extremely eloquent, even in English. But I know you're Arabic and it's not your first language. But I want to kind of go back to the checkpoint in the sense that it's that scene. A couple of people said to me, having watched the film, and they're like, this is on Q&As, and they're sort of, isn't it so messed up? Isn't it so sad that as an audience, you're almost begging the hero of the film, the protagonist of the film, to accept the humiliation, to accept defeat, in order to sort of stay alive or not to be shot, or because of his daughter, you're almost rooting for the person to accept injustice, and how messed up that is as an individual, as an audience, rooting for someone to accept something you would personally never accept, and so this mental contemplation that it leaves audiences in, I think is fantastic, because it is very disturbing that you would root for someone to actually accept that humiliation and that frustration and all of it. And that control.
Right.
And I always find that quite fascinating.
Definitely. Now, the people in the audience, obviously you had such great responses from audiences. You've won awards in how many festivals? Big festivals? I mean, it's amazing.
Stop counting. Is that bad that I stopped counting? I read it on something where, we were being promoted. I think it said 28 now. So we've had 28 sort of audience and jury awards, all international, and we were nominated for around 40, and those that we've been at 40 festivals and rising, and then of course the nominations for the BAFTAs and the Oscars. So it's been incredible, really. And do you know what's so wonderful? I mean, from my perspective, is it's exactly that. It's audiences and juries. So you remember, Saleh, when we won the audience award at Clermont-Ferrand, and I either called or messaged Saleh, and he said that's the most important award, and I totally agree. The audience award is when the people, kind of in a democratic process, have collectively decided that this film has resonated with them, and that they have felt with your art and your story and the emotion. And so I just love that we've had this combination. It's not just been from a sort of, purely cinematic, jury, pragmatic, not to say that that's the only way juries choose a film, but it's that combination that tells me that we've resonated with audiences from Japan to Australia to America to Europe, to the UK, to you name it, to an island in the middle of Reunion Island, that I remember them getting in touch, and that was an extra award I don't even think I put on the list yet, but I remember going, oh, Reunion Island, okay, we've done super beautiful.
To live in that environment as a Palestinian, and I think probably have no hope. I mean, hope is dashed, is crushed, and now to have this, somebody say, yes, this is my life. It's so exciting, whether any group that has that kind of pressure on them and that kind of mistreatment start to be recognized. What a great gift to the world.
Chris and Saleh, I have not shared with him. I mean, there's just too much to share, but I'm getting dozens and dozens of messages every day for the last 3 months. And now more so, of course, because the film is getting more and more exposure. And ever since it started to stream on Netflix, And they are either people who experience the injustice, not just the checkpoints, but of course the checkpoints are part of a much bigger control system, but they are the element that happens every day for some. So it's part of their daily lives. Thanking me, saying they feel that they've been seen, that this is my life, this is my experience, this is my reality. And then I'm getting messages from people from outside who have either visited before or have never been allowed to visit. And collectively, you've got people saying, I remember my father when I was young, we visited, and this is what happened. And, you know, this kind of euphoria of a feeling of their reality has somehow been seen. And it's really reverberating in a very beautiful way. I occasionally share these things, but honestly, there's just too much that's coming in.
Right, right. Wow. That's so good to hear. There was a quote I came upon a few years ago, and I really loved it. And it said, peace is not the absence of war, but the presence of justice. And without any exposure, you're not going to get any justice. And it's so great that this is growing like this. I have some questions from the audience, but before we go to that, anything particularly you guys would like to add, high points or struggles or things you want to share with the world audience that will at some point see some of this?
Saleh, is there something you'd like to say?
Farah? No, thank you, Chris. It was really so beautiful to talk to you and so nice to talk to you. It just felt so convenient to talk to you. And
thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Appreciate that greatly. Farah, anything you want to say about the movie or how it, your reaction to being nominated for the best narrative short for 2020 and how that's affected either of your lives? If it's changed anything or just made you happy for the day or?
No, Chris, I mean, honestly, I mean, there's so much, and Saleh knows I'm a talker and I can go on and on and on about, this film and what it means and what this scene meant and what the symbolism of the cage and the watch. I mean, I can go on and on and on. I'll leave it for you to ask the questions. I will say that really, I just hope that this allows me to continue to tell the stories I want to tell and working on bigger and better, because at the end of the day, this was just one tiny part of an ocean of injustice. And if I can continue to tell my stories boldly and unapologetically because of in many ways the success of the present, then that is a wonderful thing. So
yeah. I'll share with you one thing that I found this week when I was doing research on this project, and certainly I'm familiar with the West Bank and Gaza and Golan Heights, but I wanted to I didn't know exactly where they fit in to the geographically. So I went on and called up a map of Palestine, and I kept getting maps of Israel. And so I looked and they would always have the West Bank and Gaza and the Golan Heights, but nowhere was the word Palestine. So I retyped Palestine map. And then I saw maps of Palestine in the 40s and a couple in the 50s and 60s, but no current maps, nowhere. I couldn't find a map that had the word Palestine on it. And I thought, well, how would I feel if that was my country? And all of a sudden, where my ancestors and ancestors and ancestors lived, born, and it's not even listed.
Chris, every colonizer throughout history will first dehumanize the indigenous population that they mean to colonize. And then they brand them as barbarians. And then they eventually deny they ever existed. Yeah. And they do that for internal and external consumption so that people of goodwill will not feel with that population. And then any and all atrocities can be carried out against that population with no recourse. So the fact that you can't find Palestine on a map is the third stage. We've been dehumanized, branded as barbarians, and now there is this attempt that we never existed. We do not exist.
Yeah.
There is no history. There is no past. There is no Palestinians. This is part of the process since time immemorial. So, you know, it is a process, and that's part of the process.
And the reverse process, or I think the only fight you both mentioned about the heart, this has to be a human story. And you've done that so well. I think nonviolence and in getting people to be educated and understand, how would you feel? I think that it's an amazing film's an amazing statement about how well that can work. And I'm praying that it continues to do so.
Well, Saleh said it at the beginning, art. I mean, art speaks to the heart.
Yeah.
And that is the main way you can humanize. That is the main way you can access the mind at the end of the day. You have to speak to people's hearts.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can have all the facts and figures in the world, but unless you've opened people's hearts, you cannot access their minds.
Well said.
Art.
Well
Yeah.
said. All right. And Saleh, one question for you before I go on to the other ones from the audience. Speaking of the heart, was your father your initial acting teacher? Did he teach you how to get into that place and how to use that place, or did you have?
Well, he didn't teach me directly. I went to study. I studied for 3 years. He didn't teach me directly, but I remember the first I wanted once a help with a monologue. Now, I used to a bit not ask him for help because he's my father, and I didn't want him to help me. I wanted to prove to myself that I can do it alone without the help of my father. So I was always taking a step from getting help from my father. But once I almost broke because I didn't know how to work on this monologue. And I called him and I said to him, I need your help. And he came all the way to the school where I was studying. It's about 1.5 hours in the car. And he just said to me, be you. Be you. Just be you. And that's it. That's all what he said. And that was, for me, that was the biggest lesson. Yeah.
Wonderful.
And I never forget that. Be you. Don't copy anybody. Be you.
Yes.
Don't copy. Just be you. And that's it.
Thank you. Yes, I believe that as an actor. It takes a while to learn that, I think, and trust that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
How could I possibly be enough? You know.
Exactly.
Okay, some questions. Marie Robin. Marie asked, what triggered you, Farah, to leave the business world and move to the movie industry?
Oh, I'll give a really fast answer for that because it could be really long. And the fast answer is that I went home. So I'd been to Palestine many times as a young child, and then nothing after the first Intifada for around 25 years. Intifada meaning uprising, and that was in 1988. And then I went back about 8 years ago for the first time as an adult, and it changed me. I thought I'd understood the situation, the oppression, the occupation, the apartheid, but really seeing it with my own two eyes. And I came away and I thought to myself, I want to tell these human stories and I want to express myself creatively. And I adapted my first three films I wrote and produced that I adapted from personal writings that I had done therapeutically with no intention of making films. And that's it, I had the bug. I've always loved film, that's without question. I've always been the storyteller from a very young age. I still am. and that's it. I had the bug, and then it brings us to the present time and the present film where I finally plucked up the courage to direct my first film. And that's it. I'm sold. I love it. And yeah, that's the fast version, by the way. So
Thank you. And just to add briefly to that, and your courage and the producer's courage, you mentioned him earlier, but I wanted to put him in the spotlight because that's a very courageous move also. Yeah.
yes, yes, yeah. So I produced as well with Ossama Bawardi. We're both the producers, and Sama, you know, he's ready to work on films that have meaning because he, of course, you know, when you work in the industry, you need your bread and butter. You need to get paid as well to survive. But when he's approached for a story that has, you know, that depth, and he's one of Saleh's close friends. I mean, I approached Saleh separate to Ossama. I didn't actually at the time know that they knew each other, but they are of the same fabric, you know. And so Ossama was ready to work with me on this, knowing that this wasn't gonna, you know, make him a whole load of money or something. That he was, you know, coming on board because he also believed in the story and what this is about. So it's great.
All right. Next question. Would you have any advice for someone wanting to do the same risky move from Marie, to move from business into entertainment?
Oh, for me, it's a no-brainer. I mean, I always say, feel the fear and do it anyway. That's my advice to her.
Okay. And what is it like to be a woman in industry, especially in the Middle Eastern countries?
Honestly, I mean, from my perspective, I'm all over the place, and you know, I was born, raised, educated in the UK. I've worked in business and finance, which is a very male-dominated industry. So I'm not particularly intimidated by much, to be honest. And for me, it's been a good journey so far. So it's been a good journey.
So far. Okay. From Mark Labella, and this is for both of you. What type of scripts excite you that you want to either make and direct the film or be the lead in the film, be a part of the film as an actor?
Go to Saleh first. Go
Saleh?
first.
Something that when I read the script, there is something inside that turns me on. There's something in the story that turns me on, and something that leaves a trace in me. When I wake up in the morning, I feel I think of it. I think of what I read. Something that I feel there is something new that can change me personally, because if I feel a change, I would reflect that on the other, on the one who sees my work. Because if I do feel a change, then I would easily reflect that. And yes, I love and I believe in characters that can change me, that can give me something new, some other perspective about life, about humanity, about reality. I believe in reflection. I believe that we reflect what we are doing in a very, very unique way. Yeah, and there is something that turns me on, that I feel there is something I want really to do, I love to do. But sometimes, because I live here in Palestine, because in Palestine, the situation, the artistic and cultural situation is limited, because so sometimes I do things that I don't really believe in, but I do it for to live, you know,
Yeah.
to live. But not a lot of things. Just when I really need to settle myself.
Right. Fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the world of work. Yeah.
Yeah.
Survival. Yes.
Exactly.
All right. Farah?
For me, honestly, at the end of the day, I can't do any work that I don't believe in. And I'm in a privileged position to be able to choose not to. And I'm so grateful for that, because I think it is an extremely painful thing to have to do sometimes. I totally get that it has to be done. And an artist's life is extremely tough, because you need to get work, and at the same time you want to believe in the art that you're doing. For me, I will work on things that have depth and meaning and dynamism. And I always say it's how you began the conversation, Chris, when we talked about entertain, but to inform, to elevate, to raise the global social conscience, as director Alessandro Inarritu said. I believe in that. That's the kind of cinema and films I want to make, that elevate us as a society. Because at the end of the day, really, film is a way of knowing who we are and where we are as a people, as a humanity. And I don't believe in mindless entertainment. I want to take people on an emotional journey, and it has to resonate on a deeper human level.
Right.
You know? I actually have on the top of my website, my production company website, a quote by Italian artist David Dormino. He's a sculptor of bronze statues in art. And he said, true art always had a role and responsibility to take a stand, because the fundamental role of the artist is to help people shape their point of view in a way that liberates us. Without that, art is only aesthetic.
Yeah.
And I love that, So for me, that's all I want to do.
Yes, yes. Understood. Although as an artist myself, I understand also I've done a fair number of projects that were mindless entertainment, and maybe just to me, I mean, sometimes I'll meet directors, writers who think their project is exciting and world changing. And maybe I'm just not seeing the bigger picture, but I understand doing that.
It's not to say that you cannot enjoy mindless entertainment sometimes. I mean, God knows, maybe I do. I just don't particularly want to work on it myself. I cannot dedicate. When you make a film, when you make art, when you are bearing part of your soul. As an actor, I'm sure Saleh is bearing part of his soul. For me, whether it's writing or directing or the final film or producing, it's part of me. So you dedicate so much. So I'm just not interested in doing that as my work. That doesn't mean I can't enjoy something that's mindless. And at the end of the day, who am I to decide what's mindless or not? This is a personal opinion. But again, work is work, and I'm under no illusion. We have to hustle, we have to work in life, and that's, I understand totally.
Next question for both of you. How would you work with writers that want to approach you to work with them? From Mark.
Again?
How would you work with writers who want to approach you to give you something to work with them on, whether help directing a script or acting in the script or producing?
Look, it's so tricky, because I mean, I get emails, at least a few a week, saying, can I share my script with you? Or I have a story I want to tell, or this is a film I want to make. And there's a whole world out there of people who, want to bring their art to life. And it's very difficult as a filmmaker myself, who's trying to hustle to make my next work and so forth. And for me, I do say to anyone who does approach me, that's wonderful, you have an idea, but as long as it's an idea, I cannot help you, regardless. Everybody has ideas. Right. And so you need to go away and work on that idea yourself and get to a place where you have, whether it's a script and so forth, you can work with other people on that, but I cannot. There's only so many hours in the day, only so much you can do. When I have been approached with stories and scripts, I'm ready to read them and look at them and all of that. But again, I warn people that it's going to take a lot of time for me to get to a place where my pile is so high. In terms of an actor, though, you know, I'm an example of that person. I wrote a story. I wrote a first draft of the script, started to then co-write the script with Hind Shoufani, developed it and developed it. At some points, even she was busy and I kept developing it, you know, so forth, so forth. And she said to me, who do you see as Yusef? And again, it's my debut short. So I'm in the shoes of whoever is asking this question in many ways. Yes, I'd produced other films, but this is my, you know, and she said she knew Saleh, she'd met him before, and she introduced us by email. Now, Saleh is an example of a very seasoned actor who took a chance on me. So really what I would advise is get your story, get your script, work on it, work with whoever you need to work on. I'm not at liberty to say, oh yes, I'm here working on scripts with people. I'm just not in that position. I'd be lying if I said to you I was. I've got a whole family to deal with as well. I've got all sorts of things going on. But take that chance, reach out to people, for example, like Saleh, people that you feel are talented, and whether it's producers and whatever, and maybe you can make the magic happen, you know, but that's all I can add to that.
All right, Saleh?
Recently, the last 2 years, I started to write also, and I know how difficult is it, and how, in the same time, joyful. But writing, when I wrote, I needed some other people to talk to people that I trusted, people that I love, people that I trust their thoughts and their notes. And so I sent it to friends, and a bit by bit, I knew to who to send and to who not to send. And that's how I figured out now who are the people that help me in the process of writing here around me, friends, people that I know, that really can help me in the process of writing. I know them now, after 2 years of trying to write this, a play. I'm writing a play. So now I have the second draft, and I'm very, very happy with it. And my friends and the people I trust, they really helped me with that. They really helped me with that. I personally, whoever send me anything, asking my opinion, I always read, send my opinion while in the process of writing. In the process of doing, then there is, it depends on the director, if he's open, not open. I prefer, of course, open directors who can give me freedom also to discuss the script or the dialogue, but not all of them like that.
Yeah.
And some directors, they want their script, no change, no nothing, and you have to go with that. So I accept both, and I work with both. I'm very resilient in that way. That's it.
Another question for you, Saleh, about directors. I've been heard here many times directors say we were taught never to give a line reading to an actor. And I don't know if you're familiar with that term, a line reading.
What does it mean?
It means that if the sentence is, John, I'm going to kill you. And say the actor says, John, I'm going to kill you. And the director says, no less. Or the director could just do it, John, I'm going to kill you. He could show you with a line reading. He would read the line himself to show you the emotion you wanted.
Yeah.
Now, in your history, do directors work with line readings for actors, or they always try to motivate them by explaining the situation?
Some of them are like that. At the beginning, I had a problem with that. I really had a problem with that. I don't like anybody to tell me how to act.
Mm-hmm.
But after, like with the experience, you learn also how to accept this kind of directors, but in the same time, also how to surprise them.
Right.
Yeah, I worked with such directors. I'm less enjoying this kind of work. I like directors who appreciate the creativity of the people who are working with him, whether they are actors, cinematographers, whoever artist, whatever artist on the set, the director. I appreciate these directors who appreciate the creativity inside every artist working with him or with her, because it's about creativity. Our work is about creativity, and creativity is about freedom, is about independence, it's about everything in our world. Being creative is being an artist, and being an artist is being creative. Trying to limit that or break that or in any way, it's a big mistake.
Yes. I so greatly appreciate the passion with which you share your thoughts and feelings and throughout this whole interview. Yeah, I can see how you are a great actor. You come from the heart in everything.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, guys, how wonderful to spend some time with you. I'm looking forward to seeing you guys in Los Angeles. All right, with George. We'll take George along if we have to, but maybe we can get
During our quarantine.
We'll come to the quarantine. Well, I won't say it out loud.
Come to the quarantine party.
All right. Thank you again for everything. Best of luck on this wonderful venture. I'm delighted that you're both here and that you've created such a magical, transformative film in 30 minutes. 30 some amazing. And
24, Chris.
24? Wow. Well, I kept thinking, I hope it's longer. It's longer, but no.
We will bring you a longer one soon. We'll bring you.
All right, guys. Have a great evening.
Thank you. Thank you, Saleh, Habibi. Bye.
Thank you, Farah. Thank you, Chris. Bye-bye.